$20 trillion. What would you do with all that money? You could pay off the national debt. You could spend $1 million a day for 2,000 years and still have trillions left. But could you end poverty in America? That was one of the goals of the Great Society, President Lyndon Johnson's ambitious plan to transform the lives of Americans. The Great Society is 50 years old. It's been a long, historic journey, but are we at the end of the road? We'll start by traveling back to 1964, when America's prosperity and potential seemed limitless. But America had troubling, age-old problems like legal discrimination and abject poverty that could no longer be tolerated in the increasingly prosperous land of the free. So, in May of 1964, President Johnson made a big announcement.
The Great Society rests on abundance and liberty for all. It demands an end to poverty and racial injustice, to which we're totally committed in our time.
LBJ decided that the government, with its vast power and the might of the National Treasury, would steer us towards a better place.
The challenge of the next half century is whether we have the wisdom to use that wealth to enrich and elevate our national life, and to advance the quality of our American civilization.
Johnson's plan ended the South's Jim Crow laws. No more whites-only lunch counters, colored water fountains, and sitting at the back of the bus. Landmark legislation like the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the 1965 Voting Rights Act were tremendous achievements that did away with legalized racial discrimination. Today, we stand closer to being the colorblind society that Johnson envisioned. But we're still trying to level the playing field with affirmative action policies that themselves aren't colorblind. Another stain on America was extreme poverty. 50 years ago, millions of Americans were still shockingly poor. This meant life with no plumbing or electricity and often going to bed hungry. Today, material living standards are a lot better. But now, the problem isn't having a shirt on your back or food on your plate. It's having things like a job, 2 parents, and avoiding crime and drugs that enable the poor to escape the poverty trap. LBJ also said, "We are not content to accept the endless growth of relief rolls or welfare rolls. Entitlements were supposed to be a bridge to a better life, not sustain people in poverty." After 50 years of effort and an astronomical price tag, the official poverty rate hasn't changed, even if being poor doesn't mean what it did back then. And other problems afflict today's poor. Divorce and separation have soared, and while only 8% of kids grew up without a father in 1960, today that number has nearly tripled. In America, for every working-age man unemployed today, there are 3 who have checked out of the workforce altogether. We need to ask ourselves, has America become the great society that LBJ envisioned? Should we have traveled a different road? We'd like to hear from you. Leave your comments below this video and subscribe to learn more about the promise and the peril of the Great Society.